Okay, you guys, here we go. This is the Kern River Fly Shop Podcast. I'm your host, Guy Jeans, podcasting directly from the Kern River Fly Shop in Kernville, California. On this podcast, we discuss everything outdoors. We talk about conservation, music, and life. This episode is brought to you by Simms Fishing Products. Fish it well. Reddington Fly Rods. Find your water. Rio Lines, Leaders, and Tippets. Make the connection. And Costa Sunglasses, whose frames are made from recycled nets to help protect our oceans. I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's do this! All right, you guys. Welcome to the podcast. This is Guy Jeans. And today I have two special guests I'm super stoked to have here. I've got two biologists from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I've got Craig Fiehler over here, and I've got Evan King. How you guys doing?
Good. Hey, good to be here.
How's it going?
Awesome. Glad to have you guys here. I want to talk about how we met.
Sure.
How did we meet?
Well, my son has been really asking me to fly fish, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need to learn from somebody. So I was like, I'd look in my nearest fly shop, and it was Kern River Fly Shop, which, you know, I'd been here a couple of times. Last year, I took a guide trip with Ryan Buehler. This was awesome. Okay. My son caught his first fish. He was awesome. He was. That was it. After that, he's like, I got to learn more. So I took a beginner class, and you were teaching it. So
awesome.
We got to meet the guy named Guy himself.
So I don't know. We started after the class. We started talking a little bit, and then we started talking about. I think we started talking about what you did for a living, and then we got into the Tule Elk.
Sure.
Situation and all that, which is we're going to talk about on this podcast for sure, and a bunch of other animals. And then I just met Evan for the first time today, but I'm already think you're a cool dude. I could already tell. You know, being in the outdoors and whatnot is you meet some of the coolest people.
Sure,
you know?
Absolutely.
So let's get into it. You know, how'd you guys start working for the Fish and Wildlife and become biologists? Let's start with you, Craig.
I guess you know, I always had an interest in the outdoors and wildlife, and I pursued a degree. You know, I don't have like a super exciting story, but you know, just wanted to not spend a career in the office. I wanted to work outside. Yeah,
I'm with you on that one, man.
So I was like, how can I escape a cubicle? And I was really into wildlife, so I took a major at UCLA in ecology at the time, and then from there I went to Humboldt, which is considered one of the best schools for wildlife biology in the state, maybe in the country. And you know, I didn't have a plan to work for the department, but I bounced around. I got to work eventually as a scientific aide for the department, which is kind of like the beginner first level job in the department, where you're working on all kinds of different things, and you're making connections. And after a while, I got to know folks, and other jobs opened up, and I applied, and I ended up getting a permanent position in 2009.
Cool.
Working in San Luis Obispo County.
Okay, and then you ended up where?
Well, I live in Bakersfield, but I still work mostly in the Carrizo Plain area, which is eastern San Luis Obispo County. The Carrizo Plain National Monument is situated there, and we have state-owned properties, ecological reserves that are to the to the west and to the north of that national monument. Awesome.
What about you, Evan?
Yeah, I'm actually a third generation biologist. So I was brought up in a household full of, you know, fun critters and adventures outside with my dad. And, you know, I got a little older, and he said a lot of people I worked with went to Humboldt. Like he recommended I went to Humboldt. And so I went up there and got my degree. And was doing various jobs. I was doing construction and living life, and got the wild, crazy idea to hike the PCT. So northbound on that, and then a job opportunity came up. So it was a scientific aid, entry level. I was working at the Wildlife Investigations Lab in Sacramento, and that's like a statewide disease, and I mean just all sorts of cool stuff. And got off the trail, got that job, and then ended up getting a job at Mendota Wildlife Area.
Where's that?
It's west of Fresno, just directly west of Fresno, about 45 minutes.
Okay.
And it's a 13,000 acre wildlife area.
Okay.
Mainly ducks, waterfowl, and it was a dream. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to have my dog and waterfowl hunt, and I ran all the water out there, and it was great. And I really like birds, and you know, I thought I would be like research, you know, for birds in Alaska or something like that. But you know, opportunity knocked, and it was 2006, 2007. I think it was jobs were hard to find, and full time with the state. It was rough. And I got one. And
Sweet.
Yeah, I landed that, and I worked there for about 4 years. And then a job, what they call a unit biologist, came open, and that was Tulare County, Kings County. And so I applied for it, was successful, and moved to Visalia, and that's where I've been for the last 11 years now.
It's cool, man. You guys have some cool jobs.
Thanks.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is I'll ask this question just because people want to know it. What is the mission of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife? If you want to answer that.
Yeah. I mean, the mission, as it's stated, is to manage California's diverse fish, wildlife, and plant resources, and the habitats upon which they depend for the ecological values and for their use and enjoyment of the public. So, you know, that's pretty much a catch-all. We're basically the resource department that manages a lot of the you know, fish and game resources.
Yeah.
The fish, the wildlife, and also the non-game wildlife that occur in the state, and the plants. A lot of people don't even think about the plants, but there's over 6,000 native plants in California.
Cool.
It's so diverse. Yeah.
Right.
I think, you know, traditionally fish and game was fish, game, and that's how it started. But, you know, it's branched out into just giant different avenues of...
Especially in a state like California, where there's just so many resources too, and a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between game and non-game wildlife?
Well, mainly it's game's considered, you know, hunted species. So those, you know, deer, bear, elk, all of that, everything from squirrels, you know, rabbits, you know, these hunted species, and that's game. And then basically everything else falls into non-game. And
Things that don't have a season, like a hunting season, or
yeah,
you know, that don't have a time where they're not harvestable.
So what determines the difference? Like what determines like a game versus non-game? Like, you know, I hear some people hunt coyotes, right?
I'd say how they taste, maybe.
Yeah. maybe,
you know.
Or okay.
No, I mean it's mainly, you know, a lot of non-game are considered threatened and endangered, you know, and that stuff and that avenue, and so those aren't hunted species, and you know, that's just traditional, you know, food sources. We just lumped into game, and then everything else, it wasn't like hunted or sought after, became non-game.
So we have, you know, in my world, in the fish world, we have native species. You know, we have the Kern River rainbow here, and the little Kern golden, and the golden trout in our area. And so I want to ask the question, you know, what does endemic mean? You guys answer that question.
Yeah, endemic means basically, if you hear the term California endemic, that means it's found in California, this species, and nowhere else on Earth. It's only here. So the golden trout would be one.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Kern River rainbow, but also other species, especially in the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah.
Like the San Joaquin kid fox,
Nice.
giant kangaroo rat. There's a
Tule
lot
elk.
of species. Yeah, Tule elk are endemic. They don't occur.
Yellow-billed magpie.
Yellow-billed magpie. There's
Cool.
And there's a lot of plants too that don't occur anywhere else on Earth.
That's awesome, you guys. So what is your specialty, Greg? Like, what do you do? I know you're this place called the Carrizo Plain,
Right.
and which is where? Where is that?
It's basically halfway between Bakersfield. Most folks know where Bakersfield is. They've probably driven past it as fast as they can. But if you're going to the coast from Bakersfield, it's basically halfway between Bakersfield and, say, San Luis Obispo.
So if you're driving like to Taft, is it out that way?
Yeah. You go,
okay.
Yeah. You can essentially 166 will take you to the south entrance to the Carrizo Plain. The Carrizo Plain is essentially a small valley that's elevated up, and that San Andreas Fault goes through it. A lot of people don't realize that. So there's a big fault line that goes through it, and it's essentially a chunk of the valley that's separated from the valley, from the Central Valley. And it's considered to be basically an example of what the Central Valley used to look like back before it was converted to agriculture and other uses. So it's open plains. It got converted to a national monument, I believe, in the Clinton administration. Mm-hmm. So it's unique. I mean, it's what we would consider recently termed the San Joaquin Desert, because it's so dry here. We get under like 6 inches of rain, but it is almost a snapshot in time of what the valley used to look like, and that's why it's a special place. You got Tule Elk, you've got Pronghorn Antelope, which are the fastest land mammals in North America.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They can go like 70 miles an hour. They're crazy.
Cool.
And you got giant kangaroo rats. You've got blunt nose leopard lizards. You've got stuff that's just not
so
found.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
that's all non-game stuff, but except for the Tule Elk, which is now reaching numbers where they're huntable in a lot of areas in the state. But
so you basically spend every day out there?
Not every day. I'm in charge of a property that's about 12,000 acres. That's just north of the monument. And my job is to maintain the habitat there for the native species, both non-game and game. So I have antelope, I have elk, and I have kit fox and giant kangaroo rats there. So my job is to make sure that it's good habitat in perpetuity, basically, forever.
Okay.
So,
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
probably a couple of days a week I'm out there.
Let's talk about the Tule Elk. So a lot of people don't know this, but I think it was yesterday a elk was spotted in Kernville. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't know that. I think that's the first time we've ever had an elk show up in Kernville in the Kernville golf course.
That was yesterday?
That was yesterday.
Oh, no. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, it's kind of neat to hear that. And I showed you guys the picture and stuff, and you guys confirmed it was an elk. And it was what kind do you think that was? It's hard to say.
I would say the hunch is Rocky Mountain Elk.
Rocky Mountain Elk. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So let's talk about a little bit about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Rocky Mountain Elk versus the Tule Elk. Mm-hmm. The Tule Elk are endemic.
Endemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that, and what you guys know about that, the Tule Elk, and then also the Rocky Mountain elk that are here as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know the Tule Elk are, it's a comeback story there. There's 3 remaining Tule Elk left. Yeah. And
wow.
There was a rancher in Los Banos, and I hope I get the story right, but that's how he gathered them up, and between those 3 animals, that's what we have now for a herd. Mm-hmm. And
this dude saved them.
He saved them. Yeah. That's basically late 1800s.
I want to say Henry Miller, but
it was Henry Miller. It was Henry Miller.
So not to interrupt you, but so those guys, those 3, what about the ones that are over by Bishop? Is that a different herd, or is it the same ones?
The department put animals over there.
Okay.
Yeah, on purpose.
Okay, so that's from those 3?
Yep.
So the population, from what I understand, they were moved from the area that the rancher's plot where he had them protected. They tried to put them on Yosemite, and then Yosemite's like, we don't want them anymore. They're getting a little bit too numerous, and so they were trying to find a place to put them. So the department came in and helped out, and they ended up in the Owens Valley. And then the Tule Elk Reserve is kind of outside of Bakersfield, is kind of where they some were retained there, but they got moved from there, and they've kind of just been repopulating certain spots. That's been like the donor population, the Tule Elk Reserve.
Yeah, they're doing awesome.
So how many are there now?
From what I understand, there's about 5,700 in the state.
Sweet.
Yeah, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're doing really well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do they like that kind of like high desert, or that kind of a desert kind of
They're valley floor,
valley
floor,
floor,
coastal,
grassland.
all the way out. Yeah,
open country.
Yeah, they don't do well in higher elevations, and that's like the kind of difference between these Rocky Mountain elk and then the Tule elk. They're native to the valley floor of California.
They would be in the grassland, and if you think of the historical condition of the valley, there used to be Tule Lake and Buena Vista Lake. Was a lot bigger. And those lakes were commonly going and using those resources back before when they were available. And so, in the current areas now, they're in the grassland, and they use all kinds of open habitat at this point.
So are they going to start hunting them? Is that what's going to
already? Yeah.
Or they've already started?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's if you want, 3 of the, one of the species of elk, that Tule elk,
Popular.
Rocky Mountain and Roosevelt and stuff. If you want to hunt that, you're going to have to do it here in California. Yeah. And it's hard to do.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I just got my results. Didn't get a tag this year. Every year.
There's a lottery in a lot of states.
How many people get it?
Public hunts.
How many people get the?
God, I don't even know how many tags we give out, but it's in the hundreds. And there's these private land managements and landowners that are encouraged to do habitat restoration and stuff that enhances wildlife, and they get some tags allotted to them. And then there's the hunter like me and you and everybody that just wants to put in for it in certain zones. And
lottery style.
Yeah. And is it the same type of deal? You hunt the bucks?
No, you can hunt both on some of these because the population's doing so well, and so these aren't as widespread. So sometimes they're in concentrated areas. Grizzly Island's a good example. It's like a wildlife area, and it's got a lot of elk. And so to manage that population, you can take a bull and cow.
I should have said bull. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bull and cow is for elk, and then buck and doe.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. All right. Cool. So talk about the Rocky Mountain elk and how did that happen? Why is this Rocky Mountain elk here in Kernville?
Yeah, we assume it came from like the Tone Ranch area, and that's huge landowner. But from what I'm understanding is there's a rancher outside of Tehachapi that had these Rocky Mountain elk, and
years ago.
Years ago they got out, and from that herd they got out, they populated, and they gravitated towards what is now known as Tone Ranch, and there's just hundreds, thousands of them out there. Yeah, they're doing really well. Yeah, big, really? and they're a substantially larger animal, and
so people are hunting those.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And but it's primarily on Tone Ranch, and they have their own hunt program. And Tone Ranch is the landowner, so it's not just public access. But there's a lot of elk.
It's a bigger animal. So it's substantially bigger than a Tule elk.
So why are they staying on Tejon Ranch? I mean, we got one rover here. Does that mean that they might be moving this way, or how does that?
It's a very, very strong possibility. I mean, you got dominating bulls. They got a harem. They got their cows, and and so you got these younger animals, spike raghorn bulls we call them, and they're gonna need to go find their females in their herd, and so they're going to move around.
And fences aren't barbed wire fences aren't really a barrier for them. They can just jump those easy. There's not very few. There's few barriers that they can't get through.
So what is this guy doing here in Kernville? Is he just
he's happy,
just cruising around eating?
Yeah,
he's out in the golf course just grubbing.
Perfect for them.
Yeah. They'll move some long distance.
Where, I mean, will he move up? Do you think the river, or is it kind of just no one knows?
Yeah, and
I mean, what do you think?
If it is Rocky Mountain, they're a little more adaptable to higher elevations and a little more rugged, colder weather and whatnot. And they might, surely it could get up here and go, well, there's no ladies around. I'm going to go home and go turn around, and they go all the way back. Okay. But at some point, if that is, he had to cross Highway 58.
I know.
Highway 178.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's incredible.
He had to go through. He had to go up through Lake Isabella, and then cross the highways there.
Maybe it came through Walker Basin, up through Bodfish, and then we're getting reports of them up in Kelso Valley Road, up in there. Yeah, they've been seeing them in there. And then there's a herd out in Jawbone, but that's more the desert side of things. So if it is a Tule elk, then it probably would have had to come either from Owens Valley or Lone Pine, or from Wind Wolf's Preserve, which is on the west side of I-5. So I mean it's
still a long way. Any way you cut it, it's a long way to go.
Pretty cool, huh?
So the ones on the Tejon Ranch were put there, or are they from that guy's ranch that ended up on there?
They escaped onto Tejon.
Okay, interesting. And then people pay big money
Big
to
money.
go on to Tohon Ranch to get those guys, don't they?
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus the pigs, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So what about the pigs, man? Those guys aren't
those
native.
are not native. No, those
They
are.
tear stuff up.
Yeah, they're feral. You know,
Yeah.
they're
They're
considered
fun to hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Considered to have escaped from captivity essentially, and they're smart animals. They're very adaptable.
Pigs go feral really fast.
Yeah, and they can, you know, they're smart. They can hunker down in the heat and then come out at night and feed, and they've taken off in California.
So have you seen them out there on the Carrizo?
I have.
Really?
Yeah, and you would think this is almost like a complete desert, and
Right.
I saw one 2 weeks ago. Just
Is that
out
right?
eating in the morning.
So also out there you have the Pronghorn Antelope.
Yep.
And how are they doing?
Not that great. You know, on paper it looked like an awesome place. You know, it was completely conserved.
So they were
100
put there?
They were put there. So
Okay.
they were back in the 80s. They were translocated from northeastern California, like Modoc area, like, you know, just in the northeast corner of the state. And yeah, they brought them down there, and in a couple batches. And I want to say 87 or 89, somewhere back there. And they at first they did really well, and then since then the population's kind of declined. In the area that I manage, we have maybe around 50 or 60 animals dispersed. And on the monument, it could be much less. We haven't had an accurate count in a while, but we're going to start counting again from a fixed wing airplane.
So are they, when they see you, are they just bail?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just
Well,
like-
for sure in the airplane,
Yeah,
they get
yeah.
really spooked. But on the ground, a lot of times, if you stay your distance, they won't run. They'll just kind of
How close can you get to them?
you know, a lot of the areas off Highway 58 and Soda Lake Road, which is the main north-south road that goes through the monument, you can get pretty close. They're feeding right near the fence lines.
I've seen them off the road there.
Yeah. And you know, if you spook them, they can take off really fast, and then you know you're not looking at any other type of animal because it just accelerates the bursts of speed. Yeah, so we're working on. We have a few strategies that we're trying to use to recover their population right now. Try and get them back.
They're
up.
sensitive, it seems.
Yeah.
And they were abundant, but they don't like fences.
Yeah. They can't jump fences.
They don't jump.
Oh.
They go under fences. So.
Oh.
So you got everybody developing the Central Valley. You got fences everywhere. So everybody, got their land, and they all fenced it out for cattle. And these poor antelope got, trapped, and they just don't do that well.
So what do? They try to dig under there?
Just crawl under.
Yeah, if
crawl
it's
under.
about, for our fences to have conservation fences, we have a smooth wire on the bottom, and we have it like at least 16 inches off the ground, so they can get under. They can actually get under. They're not huge animals, so they can get under fences pretty easy. And even barbed wire fences, if they find a gap that's been dug out a little bit, they can get through no problem. I've seen them bottlenecked a little bit on the highway before. It's kind of sad to see that, but we actually collared 15 of them, put radio collars on them back in 2017 just to see their movement.
Where are they going?
They were mostly staying. I mean, they were moving around within their subherds. So there's a small herd on the Carrizo Monument itself, which is administered by the Bureau of Land Management, and then there's one that's in what they call California Valley, which is right where 58 and Soda Lake go through. And that's where I manage our property. And then there's another group that's, if you know where the 41 and 46 kind of come together north of there, Jack Ranch area, there's a few up there too.
Awesome. So they're endangered.
They're not. They're not endangered, but they're struggling right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So species of special concern.
The overall,
type of
like
thing?
range wide, you go to Wyoming,
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So in California, however, they're struggling.
struggling.
Northern California's got a healthy herd. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're hunted up there. Yeah.
Okay. What about the burrowing owl?
Yeah, it's cool, huh? So
That's a cool creature, man.
they're one of the few owls that you can see during the day. They're diurnal. That means they're active during the day. They'll be
right?
hanging outside of a hole, and they'll use ground squirrel holes. They use kit fox dens. They'll just move in with them. And, you can see them just standing out kind of like on sentry, scanning the area for predators, picking off grasshoppers and stuff during the day.
Is that what they grub?
Yeah, mostly insects.
Okay.
Mostly insects. And, they're one of those species, too, that depend on the grassland, intact habitat. They like low structure, grassland structure, so they can see predators coming.
Cool creature, man.
Yeah, that's why the Tule Elk helped them out. They graze off the landscape.
Okay.
Yeah, it all used to be kind of it used to be a healthy system where we didn't have a lot of overgrown grass. But you look at the hillsides of California in the spring, you're like, oh, that's beautiful, and the grasses. But a lot of people don't realize that that's introduced Mediterranean grasses like foxtail and all kinds of stuff that just species here didn't evolve to deal with those grasses.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
All these weird plants that come about.
Yeah.
These native plants, they're really adapted to like elk grazing. And so you put a cow on that stands on that ground for long periods of time and just eats it down to nothing, where you got these Tule elk that would graze across the landscape and then plant would regrow, no problem.
Right.
So it really changed the dynamic when you brought in cows,
Right.
like domestic cattle. Yeah.
For sure. Huh?
Yeah.
What about the kit fox?
Kit fox is a really cool story. I mean, basically there's an analogous species in the desert called the desert kit fox, and there's other species like that that occur in the Mojave Desert that have an analogous species in the San Joaquin Valley. Kit fox is one. The blunt nose leopard lizard is one. So in the Mojave you have the long nose leopard lizard, and what's another one? There's the desert spiny lizard. There's a couple others. The coach whip, which is a snake. So what happened was the Tehachapis over geologic time rose up and they cut off the valley. And so these species that were trapped kind of, quote unquote, in the valley kind of speciated, evolved on their own and became a separate species. Genetically, they're distinct from their counterparts in the Mojave. So kit fox is one of those. It was one of the first species listed under the Federal Endangered Species Act in like the early 70s. And it's a cool animal. It's a desert adapted fox, only out at night for the most part. It hunts, in its native habitat. It hunts kangaroo rats, which are also native rodents.
Oh, that's not good, right? Because that's a...
Well, yeah.
Is it okay?
They evolved together, yeah.
It's endangered on endangered, so they can do that. But it's awesome. They're charismatic. They have huge ears, huge eyes, so they can see in the dark. They're like little night vision scopes they've got, and they're just a lot of people don't realize that there's a population in Bakersfield of kit foxes, that the city kind of grew up around this population, and they persisted through that urban expansion.
So I was at a hotel in Bakersfield. I was doing the sports show in Bakersfield,
right,
and I saw some
Nice.
there. Have
Nice.
you seen them there?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the city.
Oh yeah, they're on
Oh,
school
okay.
campuses.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the
Oh
time.
yeah, I was like,
yeah.
what is
They
this?
use the canals, open space, parks. They need an underground den, a burrow, basically, to retreat to during the day because of the heat of the day, and also just because they escape predators. And in Bakersfield, there's dogs. There's basically they don't have as much predation as they would in the wild, which would be coyotes and bobcats and stuff like that. But they're susceptible to vehicle strikes in urban Bakersfield a lot of times. They've been caught in soccer nets. It's crazy. They've been caught and die in soccer nets, like on school campuses and things like that. And then recently they've gotten hit really hard by a mange outbreak. So mange somehow got transmitted to that population, either by coyotes or domestic animals, sarcoptic mange. And Brian Cipher, who's a researcher, he works at the Endangered Species Recovery Program. Shout out to Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah. He gave me my first job in Bakersfield working for him before I transitioned to the department, and he's been working on that population for 30 years. He's the man when it comes to the kit fox, and so he used to estimate it around 400 animals in the city maybe, 200 to 400, and now it might be below 200 because of the mange.
So they're endangered?
They are endangered, federally endangered. Even outside of Bakersfield, the other core populations are the Carrizo Plain and Western Kern County, and it's pretty restricted.
Wow. What other cool creatures are out there on the Carrizo Plain?
On the Carrizo, I mean,
some cool lizards and stuff.
There's the blunt nose leopard lizard, which it's big for like a non-tropical lizard. It's
Oh, that's cool.
12 inches long. It's just predatory. It's just hitting grasshoppers and eating other lizards. I mean, it's super.
Is there a lot of them, or?
No, they're endangered too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're endangered too. They occur on the Carrizo and certain areas of the Western Valley, but their populations is hurting pretty hard. Giant kangaroo rats, another one. They also, I mean, they're giant. I mean, they're giant compared to other kangaroo rats. They're still like 100 grams, They're like the size of a,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They're
I've seen them. Those are cool.
They're cool. I mean, they're called kangaroo rats because of the way they jump around.
Yeah.
And the way their mode of locomotion, I guess. But, they're cool. They actually mow down huge areas of around their burrow of grass. It looks like crop circles because every spring they do this hay stacking. They cut all the foxtails down, pile them up, dry them, and then they store them underground, and they're considered ecosystem engineers because they're altering the habitat around them. So they're almost considered a keystone species, which is a species that kind of the rest of the habitat relies on them. So burrowing owls use their burrows, blunt nose leopard lizards use their burrows. I mean, even kit foxes will expand their burrows and make it their own burrow, and there's lots of stuff that just
food source.
There's no cover out there. It's a desert. They need that shelter from the midday heat.
So can people go out there and check it out and cruise around? So and they just go towards the 46?
No, it's a 58 is 58? The main way. I would say the easiest way to get there. And then you go south on Soda Lake Road and you enter the monument, and I don't know, 5 or 6 miles south of the monument boundary, there's a visitor center that's open seasonally. The last few years there's been, this year's a drought, but in a good rain year, they have the super bloom out there, where there's tons of people going out, checking out wildflowers. I've had people come out this year like, where are the flowers? I'm like, it didn't rain. Sorry. Yeah. But it's a place that few people know about still, but it's a national monument.
And I mean, how cool is that to have that so close to Bakersfield?
Absolutely.
So let's recap the creatures, the animals that we can go and see in the Carrizo Plain. So can you kind of talk about those, all the different ones that they can see out there?
Probably the main ones that you're going to see during the day, because a lot of these species are active at night, are the Tule Elk and the Pronghorn. Those are big animals. They're visible from the road. A lot of times there's Tule Elk big herd near the visitor center out there.
Cool.
Yeah. So you'll see them most times you go out there.
I've never been out there, man. I'm going to check it out.
Check it out.
Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. There's bobcats, coyotes.
Yeah. I mean,
snakes.
You'll see anybody who's into bird watching. It's a really hot spot for a lot of birds. Raptors, Swainson's hawks, eagles. There's mountain plovers, which are federally threatened, I think. There's all kinds of cool birds, and you can go out there in the winter, and there'd be a lot of birds that have come down for the winter that spend the winter there, like raptors.
Wait, is it the Swainson Hawk that is from Argentina? Yeah, they come all the way. They migrate all the way to there.
They migrate through there in the spring and on the way back in the fall.
I think I saw one this morning in my house.
That's cool.
Yeah,
man.
they adapted to the Central Valley really well.
They like they hunt a lot in the alfalfa fields and stuff.
So you two guys met. That's kind of our next subject, with a really kind of a cool looking creature. But you guys explain how you guys met and what the project that you guys worked on. I'm talking about the Nutria.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, we got reassigned. We worked in the same region.
Yeah.
We knew
of
each other, but we hadn't actually had to work together. And then we got reassigned to this Nutria project, eradicating Nutria in Los Banos area. So you drive up from Bakersfield, and I'd be coming out from Visalia, and we'd have to spend a week or two together. And so we had a trailer to stay in, a little bunkhouse, and
Cool.
an ice
Living the
chest.
dream.
Yeah. Had an ice chest for a coffee table the first week. We all hung out and, and then we were out in the field and just had pretty fun time,
So what is this Nutria? I mean, I've seen it. I've actually seen it. I think they have a couple in the Santa Barbara Zoo.
Okay.
I think they do.
Yeah.
There. So that's how I've seen it.
Yeah.
And it kind of explained what it looks like and how big it is and that sort of thing. And
it's a rodent. It's a semi-aquatic. Yeah, we might have a little PTSD on that.
Yeah.
But it's a semi-aquatic rodent from South America, so it's like from Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been taken from South America into Europe for fur farming was the original.
Yeah,
Like people
it was
would like
all fur.
Nutria fur coats and fur products.
And
back
how
in the 70s
how
and
in the
stuff.
hell did it end up here where we're trying to get rid of it?
Right.
Well, the original was the fur industry tanked.
Okay.
They opened the
This
gates.
was probably-
They just literally opened the doors and
How long ago was this?
So there was a population here in the
70s. Yeah.
And that it got eliminated, right? It got trapped out, and we thought they were gone until just recently,
Yeah.
2018 or
And
2017.
to be honest, that is $1 million question. Nobody really knows, I think, where that one came from. And so, hold out of a source population or something like that, flooding event, moved in water, something happened, and they got in there and they have up to 13 young at a time, breed 3 times a year.
Oh my
I
God.
mean,
Yeah.
exponential numbers, and they reproduce and they thrive, and
Right.
yeah, it's challenging. It's like a small beaver, large muskrat.
Kind of in between, probably about 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a giant.
Football size, but it can get a lot bigger.
I think the biggest one I got was 22
Is
pounds.
that like almost like a giant rat / beaver kind of a looking?
It
kind
has
of
a
thing?
rat tail,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
like legit round.
It's not
creepy rat tail.
It's not a paddle like the
Yeah.
beavers. It's really hard to tell when they're swimming if you see them in the water.
Oh, they swim and
They swim, so
yeah.
they spend part of their time in the water and part of their time on land.
You guys are taking deep breaths on the Nutria game.
It was exciting. I mean, it was a challenge, but I mean, it was summertime, hot work, waitered up, 100 degrees, and you're out there setting traps, and you're trying to
Catch as many as you can, get rid of
Yeah,
as
it
many
was
as you
challenging.
can, take them out so they can't. The idea was that they in Louisiana they've really gotten out of control. And there's other states where they've really taken off, like Texas, I think, and they can damage
Yeah, what is the
the
damage they do?
wetlands heavily. I mean, they eat wetland vegetation, cattails, tules, rushes, this stuff that the
Everything.
native species use. So they can really decimate that, especially when they get to be at high population levels.
They can burrow into levees and the levee infrastructure and the delta. And now you're talking deep water, you're talking big expanses, really challenging to control them. And then, like what they did in Chesapeake was they made runs basically in the dirt and allowed salt water to creep into fresh water in that environment and killed all the native, all the plants that were fresh water. It's encroaching salt water and stuff like that.
Just destroy the wetland. And
And
so
so-
that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to get to that point in
Right.
California if we can help it. I mean, at this point, we were reassigned because it was like an emergency measure. It was like, we just need to throw staff at this and try and slow this down until we can get a program up and running to try and deal with this full time.
So
And they've done that.
how are they doing? Are they getting eradicated or are they just going off?
I mean,
13 babies at once, man.
Right,
3
right.
times a year. Oh my God.
and we've been removed from the project for
It's been 2
You
years
guys are all,
now,
thank
yeah.
God.
for a few years now, and so we don't have. I don't have a good idea of what.
When
how
you
they're
guys
gonna-
caught one, were you just like, yeah?
It was fun. I mean,
You got like a 22 pounder, dude.
Well,
there was
22
some
pounds.
pretty big ones that came in there,
Yeah,
and the challenging part was like, getting that last one in the pond and trying to really hone in on that. But I don't know. I think they're doing the best they can with the staffing that they have, and they're trying different methods. And
Did they shoot them?
mainly it's live trapping or trapping them because you
Yeah.
don't want bycatch.
we
right?
don't want to catch otters. We don't want to catch
mean,
beavers. We don't want to catch. We're not.
We caught them and we released
We
them.
can't. We can't use an indiscriminate trap that's just going to kill everything because you're going to kill stuff that's.
So what
that
kind
you
of a
don't
trap is it?
It's like a box cage trap, like a wire
tomahawk.
trap.
Live
and
trap.
it only fits them? Or?
No. I
Yeah.
caught beaver. I caught
I see.
skunk.
We did, but it's catch and release if
muskrat,
it's not what
gotcha.
your target species is.
otter. Yeah, and
Okay.
so then that allows that animal to live, move on.
I gotcha.
And we baited them with sweet potatoes.
Sweet potatoes.
And so
They
trying to
love
get
sweet potatoes.
species, certain species like that, but muskrats also really like sweet potatoes. So, so a lot of they got
Hundreds
we
of
fed
muskrats.
a lot of muskrats.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you think the nutria will ever get like eradicated, or do you think that it's just kind of a
It's totally a worthy
tough
effort. Yeah, it's tough to know, especially I'm not sure what technology they're using and what strategies they're using, but I think it's doable if they have enough effort and if they have the right techniques. I think they could do it.
So how far south are they from? Have you guys seen them?
I mean, I heard rumors, on the Kings River, whether or not they're confirmed. Mendota,
Confirmed it's
Los
Mendota,
Banos,
Los Banos.
Yeah, Los Banos definitely. I mean, that's ground zero. That's where it started. And the south isn't as concerning because the infrastructure and the delta and the north is where keeping
That's
them
where
out of there.
That's where most of the effort was going, just to keep them out of there.
So are they getting in the aqueduct and cruising?
Very possible.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows.
That's a freeway.
They're in San Diego.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that aqueduct is something else.
It is. Yeah.
It transports a lot of different things.
I see a lot of people fishing in that
corridor.
Yeah. Striped bass are now in Southern California.
No way.
Yeah, for sure. So you are the biologist in Kings and Tulare County.
That's my designated area.
And you are you specifically the Carrizo Plain?
Yeah.
Craig?
So I'm tied to that property. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about deer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how are the deer populations doing in, say, like the Southern Sierra up to your area? Are they doing good or?
Yeah, I mean that's my main focus.
Is it?
That's what I'm at right now. I wouldn't say they're doing bad.
Okay.
There's it's based on habitat, based on snow. Good, fires are good. Big catastrophic fires are scary, but new growth. The early cereal stage animals, they like that stuff, that new vegetation. So fires are good. Population, I would say, is doing fine. It's probably more or less stable. I'm focused on trying to actually get that information. That's actually my goal right now, is to come up with a population number and baseline. So we're using all sorts of techniques, and that's what we're doing.
You just told me, was it recently that you just did the tagging up by Johnsondale, or was that a while ago?
Yeah, it was 2020.
The pandemic.
Yeah, February 2020. Last year.
And so you guys,
We used a helicopter.
Big effort.
Yeah, big effort. We did 81 animals in 4 days, and we used a helicopter company. And
tranquilize them?
No, they did a net gun. So
A net gun.
These guys are awesome.
Crazy.
I mean, they're phenomenal.
Talk
That's
about
a cool job.
That would be a cool interview.
Yeah, and they're just
That's
really,
a company?
Yeah, leading edge
Aviation.
Yeah, leading edge aviation.
And that's what they do, and they cruise
They
around?
go all over the western U.S., I think.
And
Maybe
they
even
are
I'm not sure.
really good at what they do. And they got these net guns. They're really heavy. They shoot out these nets with 1 pound weights attached to it. They launch them on there. They get the deer. Helicopter drops the guy down. He's a mugger. He goes out there, wrestles it. Eye mask, hobbles it, takes any samples that we give him. We ask him for certain stuff, blood or DNA or whatnot, and then he'll put a radio collar on it. And then part of those animals, like on the east side, we brought them into what we call base camp, and we processed them all on the ground, undrugged, hobbled. Put our radio collars on them, weighed them, aged them, measured them, all that stuff, and then let them go. And now we're tracking them. So then we jumped over into Johnsondale, based out of here in Kernville. Stayed at the Kernville Inn across the street.
Did?
And a Super Bowl weekend, and we got 40 deer up there in Johnsondale, and we brought in, I think, roughly 10 or a little over 10 into base camp there. It was a smaller crew, but we got all our collars out and deployed, and now we're tracking them, seeing where they're going. So
what are they doing? Where are they going? Do you figured that out yet?
Yeah, a little bit. The ones in Johnsondale, it was
Is that like a main herd of the ones in Johnsondale? Is it like that's what they do? They just kind of
I wouldn't call it. that's the wintering range, right?
Winter
Okay, so
range.
past the Boy Scout camp, up by the teacups,
Yeah.
up there. So that's where we had base camp for the helicopter. That's where we caught all the deer in like that basin area, and that's where they winter. And so they shotgun out from there. Some of them stayed. A lot of them up into like Quia Peaks and like up north into Mineral King.
From Johnsondale?
Oh yeah, then move. Yeah, and so they're going upstream and into the golden trout and all that. And then
And that's during
that's summer range.
That's summer range. Yeah. Okay.
So they go up there. They have their fawns. They drop their fawns. They live, good vegetation, everything like that.
And killer. Nice and cool.
Yeah, and they don't like the heat. So and
Yeah.
then they move back down in the wintertime, and they do it all over every year.
And they walk right by the shop here. The Bucks do when the season opens.
Right?
I swear. Right down the
Oh yeah, I've seen them right outside of town. The fish hatchery's got like
Yeah,
a herd
yeah,
of them
totally,
right there. Yeah.
Yep.
And then with the ones over in Alancha came up into Menanche Meadows, a good portion of them. So they went up like Alancha Peak and the pass, and then dropped into like right on the PCT, Kern River at the bridge right there. Yeah.
Wow.
There's deer all over there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so, getting concentrations of deer like that, you establish migration routes and patterns like that.
Yeah.
And then the other portion of the study right now is that's a movement portion. Now we're doing survival. So now I'm putting callers out across the landscape to figure out what's killing them. And part of that, so it's a multi-data approach. You're trying to get hunter kill, you're trying to get movements, you're trying to get survival, buck to doe, ratios, neonate ratios, like birthing, and we did ultrasound, find out how many of them are pregnant, all that stuff. And so
That's awesome.
yeah,
man.
so these callers tell us a lot. They tell us like where they're standing, the temperature,
GPS
the
callers.
movements, and I can get online and see where that deer's standing.
Yeah, it's communicating
It's
the
real
data
time.
in real time.
Yeah. And so there's a mortality. It sends me an email.
So you
or
guys
text.
have a computer and you can see where they're at. And
Yeah, just
Yeah.
log on. Yeah,
So cool,
Yeah.
dude.
And overface with like a Google Earth, and you can see where they're at. And then
wait, so is it are they kind of scattering, or are they all kind of moving together, kind of a deal? Or
both. It's
Yeah.
kind of like concentration in the winter, and then like more or less a shotgun approach, like up into the hills.
And then the bucks are
And
kind of
then-
by
Letting out,
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we're getting towards buck collaring. They go through rut. Their necks expand. We have to have
It's a little trickier.
Yeah, we have to have collars that are adapted to rut, and so we're not quite there. But it's battery life. It's GPS points. It's the technologies. And there's like solar ear tags now, which are really cool. And so it's like.
That's-
And
Wow.
you can put on an ear tag, and then that way the buck doesn't have restriction around the neck. It's phenomenal. Yeah, and I mean, it sends me an email when a deer dies, and I can go out there and investigate, what killed it. And,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Or text message or something.
text message and stuff.
That's cool. So
Yeah.
are they coming down like the South Fork of the Kern
Mhm.
and coming like cruising all the way down the drainage?
Yeah,
Like,
Rincon Trail, left,
Yeah.
right side of it, right down in it. Yeah,
wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
So
I mean, because it seems like there's like a herd here in Kernville too, like that goes out here on the golf course.
yeah, well,
And
we
they're-
consider them resident deer,
Residents.
non-migratory.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, and their population too. They're part of the equation.
Okay.
They feed animals. They're there. They are as important. They do get hunted. Landowners have them, access to them. So that's all part of the equation. So that's part of it. Migration versus migratory deer, and what's killing them. What's their movement. Yeah, it's all part of it. And so.
So the females can have what, like one or two?
Yeah, and a good healthy herd, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
But 2 is probably average.
Pretty normal.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the mountain lions. That's kind of a touchy subject, but how are they doing, and how are they compared to like the deer? Are they? I heard from what I've heard, I don't know if this is correct, but the mountain lions kill a deer a week.
Yeah, about
Is
that.
that about
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
How many mountain lions do you think are in this zone? Or is there a lot?
I
So
wouldn't.
that's what we need. We need to
you-
call
I
our
wouldn't
mountain
even
lions
know,
at the
but-
same time, right?
You know what's crazy? So
That'd be great.
I had a discussion with this mountain man dude one time that lives around here, and I spend a lot of time in the wilderness and
Right.
whatnot. And I asked him one time, hey, have you ever seen how many times have you seen a mountain lion? He's like, oh, dude, I I saw one, and this guy is 40 years in the wilderness. I've seen one maybe like in a meadow out there, and I'm like, I'm all, that's it?
Yeah.
I would say the population's healthy.
Yeah. I've seen 12.
Whoa.
Including one by my house and one up, there's a couple up here on the river corridor. And I've seen one up at, by the Sequoia National Monument that we've had here. I've seen that one a couple times.
But I've worked 20 years. I still haven't seen one in the field.
Oh, really?
I've got pictures of them on camera, but I've never seen one in person.
So I did this movie called Vice with this actor named Christian Bale.
Uh-huh.
And so and Christian was playing Dick Cheney, right? And so they did all the filming here on the Kern, right?
Way.
So check this out. So he's staying at the Golden Trout Lodge upriver, right? And so he went fishing with me and stuff, and I drop him off at the hotel, and I'm like, hey, later, dude. We pull out of that, and I'm driving down the road, and there's a mountain lion on the road, and he's running alongside my car. He can't get up. Or she, whoever, couldn't get up, and I'm just running along with this, and that's another one I saw.
My first, and I hiked the BCT. I've flown in helicopters, flown in airplanes, spent thousands of hours hunting. My first one was right up here in the Kern River.
Was it?
Yeah, and we were looking for deer, doing a deer survey, and that had been a big tom. It was giant, and here it was, mountain lion was in the wild. It's great.
So a friend of mine, Greg Collenborn, he used to work he's retired now, worked for the Fish and Wildlife. Do you guys know him?
The name sounds
familiar. He was the hatchery manager here at Kernville for years, and then he went up and worked in Fresno. But he called me up one time, and he's all, Guy, you got to come check out this mountain lion they shot over across the lake. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. And they had it in the refrigerator over there in the hatchery.
Right.
And so I got to go touch this mountain lion and check it out.
Yeah.
Like
up close and
push on it. You know how like a little kitten, when you push on a kitten's pad and the little thing comes out, the little claws.
They're designed to do.
I would push on that big old, giant thing. And then I was like checking out his arms and just like, oh my God.
They're phenomenal, huh?
It's unbelievable.
Muscular animals.
This one was about 150 pounds, they were saying. So it was
it's a big animal.
And I was like checking out, I was pulling up his his
teeth
and stuff. And I was like, no way. And, it was really cool to be able to get that close to an animal like that, Mm-hmm. So anyway, so they're seem like they're doing okay.
Yeah, I mean,
there's lots of them.
I would say the majority of the animals that I die from my call are mountain lions. If we get on them soon enough, we can determine that most likely it's a mountain lion. And so
you can see tooth mark. You can just see evidence of
they bury their prey
of the trauma that was inflicted on the deer by the mountain lion.
Yeah, so they do pretty well.
Yeah.
And then it's all anecdotal, but you got the combination of good bear population, you got a good mountain lion population. You have deer get killed by mountain lion. Bear finds the carcass. Mountain lion goes out and finds another deer, and it's just a cycle. But we need a lot more study to determine exactly that. But the mountain lions are doing fine. Yeah.
So let's talk bear.
Yeah.
All right. So we have bear here in Kernville.
Sure.
Right. And so I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a musician as well, and have a ska band and whatnot. So we're filming a video at my house, here in Kernville. And it's on the river and whatnot. And my daughters we're filming it, and we're up on this deck of my house, and we got a drone flying around and stuff. And my daughter's all, what is that? And I'm all, that's a bear. And a bear was like, cruising through. And this was in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But, and then, people all the time are saying that there's lots of bear here in town and stuff.
Yeah.
Are you guys finding that the bear population is doing
really
extremely well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's estimated 35 to 40,000 statewide. Statewide for population.
What do you think, like in this zone in?
I wouldn't. It's hard to say, but thousands and thousands.
Thousands. Huh?
Yeah, they're very, they're common. They're around, a lot. So they're healthy. I mean, thousands in a broad area, into D8, D9 hunt zones and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I mean, they're bears in the wild, and there's bears that live, in town because they know how to survive and take advantage of that. And so
I would say a lot of deer hunters I know in Bakersfield area are getting bear tags now too.
Yeah.
Are they hunting them now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you can't do like the, what is that, like the bait with
No
the
baiting.
dogs?
Yeah.
No
No baiting, no spring hunts. Yeah.
No dogs.
No dogs. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no
yeah.
dogs on
Yeah.
them.
They
Okay.
tree them and everything like that.
Okay, here's one of my observations
Sure.
being in the wilderness. So I spend a good portion of my life in the Golden Trout Wilderness,
It's awesome.
right? And so, which borders the Sequoia National Park.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the bears I found in the Golden Trout Wilderness are like freaked out
Yeah.
when they
Mhm.
see you.
Right.
Then you go into the park. The park bears are like, "What up, dude?
Yeah.
Let's,"
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
you
they
got-
want to
yeah.
like, you know, throw down. And I mean,
yeah, that's-
why
that's
is
scary.
that? I mean, is it just?
It's habituated more or less.
Uh-huh.
I
Right.
mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Like I don't know, the ones in the wilderness because they hunt them there. Or?
No, it's just, I mean, it's just simple numbers. Like how many people go into the wilderness? Very few relative
Oh,
to the number
okay.
of people in the park. And then there's just, you got
There's
people.
no dumpsters in
Yeah,
the wilderness, right? They don't
exactly.
get habituated to human presence.
You're not
okay.
camped in
And
the
so
same
they-
spot every time, you know, that type
Right.
of thing.
So they see a person, they get frightened and run off, and that's
And
the
that's
defense.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they
That's
should
supposed
That's
to
what
be
they,
good,
that's
right?
kind of what you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the ones in like Sequoia National Park, like just invade.
Right.
Ice chest.
Yeah, I mean they've had problems with Yosemite bears for
Right.
years too.
Yeah.
I mean they're just in campgrounds. They
They're
recogn-
walking stomachs. Man.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
just,
Oh, yeah.
they just do 20,000 calories a day.
and they can smell like insane
Yeah.
sense of smell. Like they can smell another bear like 5 miles away. It's
Yeah.
above and beyond what like the best dog can smell.
You got any bear stories? Any cool bear stories?
Yeah, I've come across a few. Yeah. I actually I darted a deer right up there at Lloyd's. What's it? The end of the road at Lloyd's Meadow.
Oh, okay.
Up near there.
Oh, yeah. Forks of the Kern,
Forks
yeah.
of the Kern.
Yeah.
I darted this deer, and it was really windy, and the deer was recovering, waking up, and I mean, 50 yards, this bear walks right in between all of us. And luckily, I think because of the way the wind was blowing, it didn't smell anything, but
It would have got the deer.
might have, yeah. Very, very well. I've chased a few out. I mean, on the PCT, we, you know, up by Ray Lakes and stuff like that, chased them off and on the camping. But yeah, I mean, bear stories of darting them in town and stuff like that. Yeah, you know, they walk out of they're in a habitat and they're in the backyard of somebody's house, and so there's been a few of those.
What about you, Craig? Any good bear stories?
No, I mean we've released some bears out near the Carrizo. Like you know, you get
really?
a little bit far. If you get a little bit west of the Carrizo, you get into oak woodland and some adequate habitat. So some problem bears that we've had on the coast, and they get into avocado orchards.
Yeah.
They love avocados. They love like apples, like all those orchards, like near San Luis Obispo, Santa Margarita, Tascadero. They just have problem bears a lot, and so we've if worse comes to worse, you move them, and if you have to. And we've had orphan cubs, the mom dies, or then you gotta take them and try and find a home for them.
They're docile compared to the grizzlies. So no, like
these are all black bears.
You know,
of course.
yeah.
So I've got a black lab, or I used to have a black lab.
Uh-huh.
I've had a couple of black labs. And so it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're upstairs, and it was summertime. My black lab's out on the deck, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and my black lab's going off, rah, 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 just going off, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so I get up and I go out on the deck, and she's like barking at this one area, and I look over the deck, and there's this big black bear in our trash just grubbing.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like just just loving life, right? And my dog's going off, so I go in and wake up my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got to come see this. It's like 2 o'clock. What, Dad?
Yeah.
What are you doing? I'm like, come here, you guys got to see this. So I get them up, and we go out there on the deck, and we're actually getting to see this like cool bear like eating our trash.
That was common. I mean,
It
you
was
go to
awesome.
the dump to go look at and see bears.
some places, yeah.
And I was all, get out of here. Ah! And it was like,
Yeah, you don't. I mean, it's not what you want. Like that's a bear that's gonna start saying, "Oh, this is a good place to be."
big
So
and
I don't need to go look in these.
Yeah, they'll tolerate a lot when there's food. I mean, they're just like, well, whatever. There's food.
And nothing
here.
freaks out dogs
yeah.
like bears.
Oh yeah. They get
I've
all
had just touching, like having bear smell on you, and you get home, your dog's just like.
Yeah, I've had them in
what's-
traps, and my my house before, transporting him and stuff. And dogs don't like them.
Bears are badass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know who else are badass is raccoons.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like a miniature bear. Like those
Right.
guys will tear you up.
With like opposable thumbs,
Right.
right? Like,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got sharp teeth. And you
They'll-
don't mess with those.
What's some other cool creatures that you guys have come in contact with? Out in the field. Anything else?
trying to
You
think.
ever seen Bigfoot out there?
Not yet.
I've seen
Looking.
ringtail cats,
Right.
Oh yeah.
Seen those out there.
Uh-huh.
Fishers, they're cool. Pine martens.
Oh, pine marten's cool.
Badgers.
What about those?
Badgers.
What about
American
those?
badgers are real cool.
Oh yeah. What about isn't there like wolverines around in somewhere?
There's Truckee in Northern California.
Okay.
There was one spotted years ago, and I think there's been a
Ray
couple
Lakes.
since then.
So.
And then I don't know. There was a news. Did you hear it on the Salt Lake? They had a picture of one like running across
really?
the Salt Lake in
Nice.
Utah. Crazy.
So
They just show up. sometimes.
another thing that you're good at is you've talked about is porcupines.
Yeah.
So what's going on with them, man?
We're looking for them.
Uh-huh.
What we were trying to do is actually figure out a way to find them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since there hasn't been really many detections of them, and especially in the southern Sierras, right?
yeah.
Northern California, North Sacramento, there seems to be a little better population of them. So we were trying to figure out, well, how do you figure out how to find these animals? So we took sticks and we salted them because they have a very high salt drive, and then we put the sticks out in the woods with cameras on them to see if we can't detect porcupines that way. And the cameras kind of confirmed that there were porcupine present, but what we were hoping that they would bite onto a salted stick and they have a distinct chew mark, and then we can find a detection. So one of the wardens reported one up in Fresno County, which is really cool. And so that, as far as I know, as far south as I've seen one,
Right.
Kaiser
There was a systematic poisoning program that went on in
Yeah.
the state where they were just dropping
They're
bait.
pests.
They were considered forest pests, like girdle trees. They chew trees up. So
And they killed them.
Mhm.
Salt, strychnine.
strychnine,
Oh,
salt
bait.
So
but this is
now-
20s, 30s,
Oh yeah,
40s,
it's a long time. When
1940s.
they're thinking forest management, they're thinking growing trees. This is what they
This is what
want.
we wanna do.
So
When logging was prevalent in the state.
So now they're kind of not doing well in the southern Sierra.
Yeah, I
area.
wouldn't say that. I mean, you could go and look at records from vets, see if any quilling from dogs have come in there.
Nothing down there.
You hear old hound dog stories of them getting wrapped in there, but it's like 30 years ago. Porcupine's dead on the side of the road, but really very few reports of them. So kind of a
Habitat's
bummer.
still here, so
Yeah.
it's possible they'll move back in here, but we still don't know why they've disappeared.
So, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but the Forks of the Kern has been closed,
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
and that huge fire that came through and
Right.
the devastation. We would be up there right now because the water temperatures
Right,
would be cooler
absolutely.
and
Right.
whatnot. Are you guys seeing a difference in some of the vegetation and seeing changes in some of the plants that you guys are
Oh,
coming
yeah.
across and stuff? Are you seeing more, the trees I know are having
They
a
got-
hell of a time,
Yeah, they got nuked.
Yeah.
A
with
lot of- in a lot of
with the
areas,
bark beetle. And are you seeing the bark beetle up in your zone?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's all fallout, but
That's a California-wide
Yeah.
issue right now.
Yeah.
But fires are really good, and it looks catastrophic. It's trauma, and it's dramatic. But you give it a few years. Now this year, of course, we didn't have much rain. But you give it a few years, and you've seen the McNally fire probably come back and stuff
Totally.
like that. And those first 5 to 10 years, just epic.
It's a
that
reset
plant
button in
life.
some
Yeah.
ways. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really bad when it happens.
So
Yeah.
now I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, that it was so hot. This fire was so hot that it devastated the sequoias. I guess the sequoia trees like that
Sure.
fire or whatever.
Yeah.
They're fire
And
tolerant.
so now it came through the George Bush tree
Right.
grove or whatever
Right, I
down
read
there by the
that,
Forks, and it just devastated that zone. Have you guys heard that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the thing is it's an unnatural level of fire. That
Yeah.
intensity of fire shouldn't happen naturally. So
Yeah.
the fire regime should be more frequent. You should have more low low-level creeping fires through the understory, burning down, the vegetation.
That don't get up into the crown of the trees.
And those sequoias need heat to expand their acorn, or the acorns that open up, and they that's what they thrive on. So sure, you get these fires that are 20, 30-year fires that are just catastrophic, crown out. That's just that's just horrible.
I haven't been up there yet, but I've heard that it's just.
We went up there.
We went up
deer
in there.
Collar, probably November. November.
And we went up to the campground at the very end of the road.
What was it like?
It was like shin high ash. You were hiking in. It was nothing.
But we did see probably one of the largest bear tracks I've seen. I mean, it was in there. But we were hiking up in there. But
you mean at the forks of the Kern trailhead? You guys were that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how were the trees looking in there?
Nuked.
Like all gone?
This was like
they're just black sticks,
Yeah. But there were still some shrubs that were a lot of manzanita, and so there was. It wasn't a complete. There was patchy in some spots.
Stump growth on the oaks and stuff like that. You know, coming up. I mean, it's going to come back.
I love you guys' positivity.
Oh, this is great.
Well, I mean, it was almost good that it didn't rain super hard this year,
right?
To like just wash all that ash into the drainages,
So your river didn't,
we've
go black on you.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to get a little more rain and get that jump started a little better.
No, fires are
just
right.
Yeah.
If it didn't, hit houses and stuff like that, fires are great.
Right.
So.
The McNally fire in 2002 was like unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that fall and that winter we had like record rains.
Right.
And I don't know. Did you guys see it? Did you see the river? It was like black soot for like a year.
Oh, no way.
And so like after I was just starting my business, I'm like, oh no.
That's a horrible
Black River, right?
Sign,
I'm like,
right?
So it forced me to go find these other places to explore and stuff, right? It was kind of a good thing.
You learned all those pocket waters and
totally. So anyway, these fish, I don't know how, but they survive.
Right.
That black soot, it's
right.
unbelievable how they survive. Another, I know this isn't up your guys' alley, but it'll be interesting to you guys. But like some of these creeks right now, they're completely like dry.
Wow.
Like some of the golden trout creeks and stuff. And I've seen it before where they're completely dry, and then you go back there on a big water year, and all the fish are back.
Yeah, how's that possible?
How's that work? I don't know.
And
it's like,
and I don't know if
bizarre.
After fires, those creeks, their water level rises like significantly because all those trees that died aren't dragging, they're not
pulling water
out, and those creek levels actually rise up quite a bit just immediately after like fire. But how's that? And how do they survive when there's just the CFS levels just cranking through this river? Nothing could stand in there. There's fish there.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing, huh?
It is. It's amazing. What else is there? Is there any other creatures that you guys want to talk about? What about golden eagles or anything like that? You guys want to talk about any of the birds that you guys? I know you're into birds, man.
I'm into birds. Yeah, that was my first. That's kind of my first love of wildlife. It's bird watching is a very it's easy to do wherever you're at. You can do it in the city. I was in LA County when I started, and there's birds in your backyard. Put up a feeder, check it out. But there's just an enormous number of raptors that use the Carrizo Plain. Raptors, I mean, birds of prey. Mm-hmm. I've even seen bald eagles fly over the Carrizo Plain.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I mean, they're going, I don't know where they're coming from, but they're usually maybe going to Santa Margarita Lake or one of those lakes that's in the coastal, somewhat coastal zone. Golden eagles are fairly common out there. That's the eagle I see, 9 times out of 10, and they prey on jackrabbits. There's lots of jackrabbits out there. A lot of cottontail. Those are their bread and butter. Gold and what am I thinking of? Ground squirrels.
Oh yeah.
But they're out here on the east side. When I did a field biology quarter in way back in the late 90s near Mammoth, there was sage grouse. Leks, they're called leks. These are areas where sage grouse, which is another rare bird, goes and displays. Like males go and display for females. And the biologist there, I forget his name now, was telling us about golden eagles would come in the morning out of the White Mountains, where the sun was coming up, and come out of the sun and just nail some of these displaying males because they're not paying attention. They're trying to get a female.
Yeah.
and they can't see
Right.
this eagle, so they just had it
That's
dialed
cool.
in. And I think that's their strategy on the Carrizo too. They would just come out of the sun and just nail stuff. And they're I would say fairly abundant on the Carrizo, doing well, that population.
Yeah.
Lots of prey species there.
I've seen them on deer carcasses. We put cameras out.
Oh, okay.
They'll be on
Just
there.
grubbing on
There's
them.
there's prairie falcons. There's probably peregrines. I haven't seen one personally. Merlin, kestrel, rough-legged hawks, Swainson's hawks, red-tailed hawks, of course, are very common. And just
Coopers.
abundant. Coopers, yeah. There's all kinds of raptors there in the winter, just making it happen. And then there's also owls, burrowing owls, of course.
Yeah.
But there's short-eared owls, which are kind of a grassland species. You can see them sometimes foraging out there during the day in the grassland. It's pretty neat.
One last animal I want to talk to you guys about, because it seems like there's an overabundance of them, and that's coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm up I do these trips up into the wilderness zones, and camping overnight. It seems like there's just so many of them at night. You can hear all the different, I don't know if they're packs or whatever, but they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing like?
Yeah, that's
Is that like a situation where there's like too many, or?
that's pretty common. You got a couple good rain years.
Yeah.
You got your prey species that are now doing great, ground squirrels and birds and quail and stuff like that. And so this is bell curve, right? You got an increase in prey, and then right behind that is your mountain lions and your coyotes and your bobcats.
Okay.
And so what you're going to see is, like, right now you got a couple years of drought. But you're seeing the results of
The previous.
few years.
Copy.
So now you're seeing all these coyotes because of the few years we had. They're a couple years behind. So
It was out of control.
yeah.
up in
They're at
Wenatchee.
my house too. Yeah,
there's
Menanche's great,
so many.
man.
And even at my house, right
Yeah.
here, like out, in the meadow here going into the Lake Isabella, it seems like every night it's unbelievable how many there are.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's it.
yeah, they're hard, with chickens and pets, but otherwise they do really good for the ecosystem.
So is that a game or a non-game?
Yeah, that would be game species, right?
Is it a
Yeah,
game?
you don't,
Coyotes, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't need
They're
a
classified as non-game.
right.
So you guys want to hear this kid? I got to tell you guys this, and this is my last thing, and we'll close. But
Sure.
so this dude, this kid, walks into the shop, and you guys are gonna love this. He walks into the shop, and he's getting fly tying materials. He's buying all these fly tying materials and everything, and his dad's with him and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, you're gonna buy all this fly? Are you tying flies? Oh yeah, I'm tying flies. And I'm like, cool. And his dad's all, get out your money, And I'm like, well, okay. And you're buying that with your own money? What do you do, man? How do you get your money? He's all, oh, I have a business, and I'm all, what's your business? Oh, it's called Varmint Assassin. And I'm all, what? This kid's like 10.
Whoa.
And so he started this business called the Varmint Assassin. He's got T-shirts and hats.
Nice.
And he's wearing it, right? So he goes out to these ranchers out in Tehachapi, and he kills squirrels with his pellet gun.
Oh, yeah.
And he showed me, it's like this gnarly pellet gun,
Right.
with a scope and all this kind
long
of stuff.
range,
And he gets $1 a squirrel. I mean,
That's
would
good
that be
money.
like the best job when you're
Oh,
10 years
yeah.
old?
Oh yeah.
So
it's like a video game.
I'm
or
all,
something.
dude, you can make way more than $1 a squirrel. And he's all, no. His dad's all, no, man. That's perfect for him,
That's
Right.
awesome.
And he's like showing me pictures of all these dead squirrels. And that's how he buys his fly tying materials.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, guys do that with pigeons on ranches, Go out there and shoot 100 pigeons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, right? The
Right.
Varmint Assassin.
Varmint
Yeah.
Assassin.
There's
So-
business is good this year. I'm
Totally.
sure. Yeah.
So my last thing I always ask people on the last part of the show is like, I'm a musician, so I always like to ask you guys, I know you like some different bands and stuff. Have you guys been listening to any music that has been inspiring you guys lately, or is any old stuff? I know you, the Pink Floyd fan and all that. So what have you been listening to?
It's funny. I was fishing last week out in the ocean, and it was a rough day. We only caught 4 fish, and it was a big ocean, and we got beat up.
That's good stuff.
We just got destroyed. And I had my sister out there. We were laughing. It was it was a fun day on the water. Fishing was rough.
Right.
And the the captain was rocking. I mean, full blast rocking Stick Figure, and so now I'm
that's one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, so I'm like I've been listening to Stick Figure for the last week,
Yeah,
honestly,
awesome. Yeah.
and so but
How
you
funny.
know I like all the old stuff too.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
it was like bringing me back memories of just being out there just slammed on the boat, but he had that thing rocking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me and my lady are Stick Figure fans for
Nice.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've seen them a couple times. Did you guys know that? You know that story about them?
I don't.
Oh my gosh! So this guy, the singer, what he did was he started doing music on his own. Just by himself. Played the drums, played the
Oh,
bass,
just making it all.
played the keyboards, the guitar, and everything by himself.
Yeah.
And he started putting it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
People are like, dude, that sounds good, And then next thing you know, he's got all these hits, and next thing you know, he's got 1 million hits or something. And people are asking him to go on tour with him. He doesn't have a band. And so now he's got a band together. Now he's playing for he's headlining with his band, huge concerts, man. And it's all from just like developing his music, by himself.
Amazing.
It's
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. Still does that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, man? Any kind of cool stuff? Some Mozart or something? Just kidding. I like
everything.
Me too. Me too.
I grew up my vinyl. My parents were into like folk music from the 50s and
Right on.
60s, and a lot of roots rock and roll music from the 50s and 60s. One of them I love is Sam Cooke. He's classic.
Yeah.
Like one of the best soul singers ever. He's just one of the best vocalists, my favorite vocalist of all time. And I still listen to Sam Cooke all the time. If I'm cooking dinner, I'll throw on like Night Beat. That's a great album.
Awesome.
Just anything from Sam Cooke.
Good, man.
Yeah.
Right on. So I'm going to invite you guys, October 16th, we're going to have a big, I've been telling everybody since the pandemic, I'm going to throw a Ranger out here, so October 16th, I just confirmed with the lady at the hardware store, it's okay to use the parking lot. So we're going to have a stage there.
Right here, huh?
Right here.
That's
My
nice.
band's going to play, a bunch of other bands, and
Awesome.
we're going to do kind of a big, you didn't know that, did you, Jim? Yeah, we're going to have a big party over there.
Nice.
So I want to thank you guys for coming, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All of them. Great.
Evan King, Craig Fiehler, Department of Fish and Wildlife Biologists. Totally stoked to have you guys here, and maybe I'll have you guys on here again. I'd love to have you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Love
so
to.
we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for listening, you guys.